go ahead and start the work session, because we have a few things that we've got 3 things on here that I think are worthy of a little bit of discussion. First was the application and process for LMI funds. I'm just going to preface this by, in next council meeting, you will be seeing a housing resolution related to this. Paul will be bringing that to us, and so that's number 1, and then we'll go into this process, application and process. So, Doug, if you would kind of explain what you've seen, and because he's done a little research, and so hopefully we'll kind of have that process to you soon after next council meeting.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of work to do in regards to me looking through other cities. By Iowa law, there are very specific things that we can spend LMI funds on, and looking how other cities have developed their LMI applications and what they define what they can use those funds for. And we would essentially, we can use LMI funds for grants, but there's usually an income threshold. You know, what are those funds being used for? What is the dollar amount? All of those things are defined. And then let's say that, you know, they want to use LMI funds for new windows on a house that they're giving grants for, or what have you. Then we actually have to have an inspector, and we have to make sure that those funds are being used appropriately. And we're still trying to figure out what direction the city would like to go, and that would be at the council's discretion. And, you know, for instance, we can actually use LMI funds to tear down, you know, dilapidated homes and clean up properties. But if you use LMI funds to tear a home down, then you actually have to build a home in its place. We just can't use it to start, you know, scraping infrastructure off lots. We have to actually put something back, and we have to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do that. That's what we've been looking at.
And I'll just add to that Grow Fairfield has requested that we look at using some of those funds as a matching grant with their funds that they're going to have. So a possible grant of $5,000 that would be matched by the new Housing Trust Fund. So that would be a $10,000 grant to a builder. And so that will be part of it too, that we'll bring to the council.
How much do
Tom has a question. I see
kind
his.
of do. I know when we did the lost applications that we were going to divert Habitat's
Yes.
request to LMI.
That's in our current resolution regarding TIF housing, and that is in that TIF housing resolution that we can use LMI funds for Habitat homes.
Okay, all right.
And this will be, we're going to leave that TIF resolution alone as is, and this will be a new housing resolution, so that's outside any
It doesn't
TIF
need to be included
issues.
in this. So, okay, all right. I'm sorry.
I was just curious how much we have in LMI funds currently. Do we know?
A couple $100,000?
At least 170, I'd say, 180.
Is
Yeah,
this something
no.
that would be appropriate to discuss at like property committee? Maybe? I'd like to.
Well, okay. I mean, like I say, we're not quite ready for it.
Okay.
So we'll bring it back. And then it can be discussed further.
Yeah.
And just also know that, you know, if the funds are spent, the funds are spent. You can't grant something that the funds, if they've been used, it's only if funds will be available, obviously. So, I'm just saying that if for some reason you know, we went through all these funds in the next 5 years and or the next 3 years or whatever, and the funds were gone, and then there were more grants, well, we just couldn't grant anymore until there were more funds there.
What regenerates it? Is it TIF?
mo-
Is it strictly
It's
through
from
TIF?
the housing TIF, yeah. The market rate TIFs, you have to put LMI money into this fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more discussion. We just want to let you know that this is part of the next process after the resolution. We want to get the resolution done so that can be part of the Thriving Communities application. So that should be on the next council meeting, and then that's kind of the next step. So.
I like the idea of maybe having some ability for people, like you were saying, who need to do home repairs that we've identified or our code compliance officer has identified that don't have the funds to cover those. I hope that maybe we can do something with the LMI funds to help people who, especially because, Weston's already working so closely with people who, so it's like we already have oversight there, Doug, to address that concern. So I feel like that would be really beneficial, especially as we continue to cite people for code compliance issues and with the, so many people are struggling with their funding.
Right,
So.
and I had mentioned to Doug too that, there's the $12,000 grant program through Area 15, and we, $12,000 doesn't get you very far, so that might be an additional amount that if somebody gets that, maybe they get a little matching from LMI. So ultimately, I guess if you have suggestions in that order, email me or Doug or Paul, and let's keep all these ideas flowing.
Right, because I
And-
did mention it at property committee one time. I guess I just assumed that maybe we'd bring it there at some
Yeah.
point to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because Area 15 also has certain application requirements that maybe we could have, we could have some application requirements, but maybe different ones
Yeah.
to help people out a little
Yep.
bit more. So.
Yep. Okay, anything else, Doug, on that? Any questions from anybody? Again, keep the ideas flowing, and this is gonna be a process to get through, and I think even once we see, draft, there'll probably be more ideas come, and, can be working, be changed over time too, so. I wanted to bring up the demolition by city crews again. After reviewing this email that came from the Iowa League, did the whole council get this email?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forwarded it to him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, just reflecting on this again,
I mean, it was a couple weeks ago.
yeah. Again, we talked about it. Joe was here to talk about, and he was ready to go forward with this. In this email, they do talk about, yes, this is allowed by workman's comp. You would need to track how many dollars are spent on those public work employees for time doing the demo, and they will be charged a different rate for that time. That could be higher, resulting in more premium dollars. That's a point. There are many concerns with this type of shift of job duties. You didn't hire these employees for this type of work, and they're more likely not trained for it. Could be a little older home, could have asbestos or materials that are regulated that we may not have, again, training for. So I think the suggestion was we stick, their suggestion was they'd rather sit contracted.
Don't we address the asbestos problem ourselves beforehand, though?
Yeah, we do that already.
So one of the thoughts that I had, yes, we do look at that, is that because our staff isn't necessarily trained, but they do a lot of different things, that maybe there could be some kind of compromise of, garages, one story, no asbestos issues, and on a larger lot, not where they're real tight. So anyway, but that was just kind of my thought, and I wanted to bring that up again and see how you felt about it. And also have our street supervisor along with our city administrator and or the code compliance kind of review those before we have our own staff do it. I mean, I recognize, yes, we could save potentially some money, but,
Do we know how much it would cost or what's involved in that training?
I was gonna say, why don't we just get them trained?
Right, if we can get one or two of them trained or something, and
meet whatever demands the insurance company would have, so they're satisfied. And what was the third one?
Well, they're not
Oh,
hired
change
for
their
that.
job description so it includes,
Right.
most job
Right.
descriptions have other tasks as assigned
Yeah.
as one of the obligations of the employee, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's broad enough to include, but we can rewrite their job descriptions.
I think, I mean, you know, the house on South D Street is kind of a prime example. It's really close to other houses. It's a two-story house. It's already falling in. And that wasn't one that Joe felt his crew could take on. And so you can pick and choose the different avenues that you take to demo a house.
Yeah, I mean,
Based on
definitely.
what it
We need
is.
to understand what our limits are. So I think that's a good idea. Can we see what the training costs?
Well, it might be as simple as having them intern in with one of the local professional demolishers that we already have for a certain amount of time, get training on the job, and then they can come back and work for the city. That might be that easy,
Might be.
because I don't know how they get trained. They certainly don't go to school for it. I don't
We
think.
might if you get a construction degree.
Maybe, I
Bet
don't.
they do.
I'm doubting it, though,
Yeah.
pretty
The
seriously.
whole crew has degrees. That seems like a bit much.
But anyway, we should find out and then just meet whatever requirements the insurance company wants.
We've already done some kind of like cost benefit analysis or like assessment on how much it's gonna cost versus, right? We know it's gonna be cheaper to do roads crew.
Well,
Do we know that?
it sounds like that's the insurance company that sent that letter, right? Not the League of Cities.
Correct. I am WCA, a workman's comp company.
Okay. So we have to charge them at a different rate, the owner of the property, a different rate than their normal salary?
Well, and we would, because there's two things. It would probably be more expensive for the property owner because we're going to assess them. And we actually have assigned rates for our employees and our equipment that we actually have to apply through resolution that we would charge them. So it would be cheaper on the city's end, but more expensive on the property owner's end that we go in there because we're going to charge them for all of the costs that we incur and put it on them.
Right. That's an incentive for the owner to get it taken
Which-
down because we're going to charge them more, just like mowing their grass.
And to clarify, when the city is paying less, that means all the other taxpayers in town pay less for the mistake of the one homeowner who hasn't kept up their property or whatever. They incur the majority of the cost. That seems only fair.
Also, I think we're going again, we need a form. If Joe maybe could come up with a form to track some of these items that have been discussed. Is that something you could do, Joe? I'm sorry, a tracking mechanism, some kind of form that tracks the dollars being spent on that type of activity, you know, how many hours, the equipment hours, the man hours, you know, tipping fees, all of that. We're gonna have to have some kind of tracking mechanism, so if you could work on that, that would be great.
Yeah, we can,
Okay.
Anything else?
Can I touch on that just real quickly?
Yeah.
So I just met with Stacy, our IMWCA rep, this last week, and our mod is 6.1, which is the lowest you could possibly be. So we are being super safe and super awesome, and we have the low rates right now.
What's a mod?
I shouldn't have
I
said
know.
it. 'Cause I didn't ask
I
me.
know it's an acronym.
Yeah, yep, sure is.
It's a rating on our
Yes.
safety for our workers' comp.
Yeah.
And we're 6.1.
Yes,
And how low does it go?
that's the lowest you can go.
Top
We're
if
there.
possible?
so that something about the safety. I can't
Experience
imagine
modification.
me being in a backhoe loading this house up and somebody sitting in the truck being more dangerous than us standing in the intersection on Burlington painting. I just don't know how it can be that much more dangerous, so. I mean, stuff can happen, but we're in way
Yeah.
more dangerous situations than that all the time.
In workers' compensation, mod refers to the experience modification factor.
At any rate, we want to keep that rating low, and we want to keep our people safe. So,
Yeah, because one accident can just send it off.
yep.
So who do we refer this to? Public safety?
Well, let's get some
rates.
more information.
Workers' comp rates are lower because of that lady.
Yes.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Next up was a sustainability coordinator position. Paul, you wanna just?
Yes, I just wanted
briefly
to-
why you put this on here?
I asked to have this added to the agenda because I know it's something that has been spoken about, obviously today at the city budget forum, and it is a topic that I believe is going to be spoken to at today's public hearing on the budget. So there's been an interest in sustaining the sustainability coordinator position, and the number of members of the community who wanted to speak to that. So I wanted to give them the opportunity to make sure that the council has the breadth of their interest and any information they could add to what we're going to have to consider this afternoon when we look at, or this evening when we look at the budget. So if there's anyone from who supports the sustainability coordinator, they'd asked me to put this on the agenda to speak briefly to it this evening. I invite them.
Hi, I'm Margaret Bauer. I think you know everybody. I just want to repeat what I said this morning, and you all just received a 15-page, I think it is, document from Faith about the deliverables from the Resilient Action Committee. And we absolutely do not want you making a decision tonight because you just got that document, and we really want you to take time to read it and understand it and ask us questions about it. Sustainability it's not a one and done. It's a continuous improvement process. And we want you to make careful consideration, read through that, ask us questions, and then you'll be able to make an informed decision. Obviously, it won't be tonight. And so we're hoping that you'll be willing to delay a decision on this topic and perhaps make an amendment later if you decide to add it to the budget. Some weeks ago, the council directed this topic to go to the Personnel Committee, and we think that makes good sense, and that hasn't happened yet, so we'd really like to see that happen, and then have the information shared with the whole council so that the council can make an informed decision. So that's all I have to say. Somebody else may.
Yeah. Thanks for opening up the conversation, Paul. Appreciate it. I simply am here as a member of the underlying RAC committee. And, you know, I think of the 40 years now I've lived in Fairfield. Can you believe that? 40 years. It's a great thing. A home I'm very proud of and take a lot of pride in Fairfield. And I think a big part of that is really standing on the shoulders of those who've gone before me, Ed, and decades past, on the level of community engagement that's accessible here in Fairfield and the amount of participation that I see happening in our community. And the RAC is just the most recent version of that spirit of Fairfield, and it brings to us, in my opinion, a really important opportunity because we all know the demographics. We all know the sort of hollowing out of the rural communities, and unless we do bottom-up community engagement like this, you know, our children really will be compelled to look elsewhere. And it goes beyond that because we also are a potential destination if we can generate the adequate opportunities and community buzz around the Fairfield experiment. And you know, I work in the investment world like you do, Connie. I focus exclusively in this sustainability domain, and I've spent now the last 25 years watching where is the money going. And to the degree that this council can support a RAC-type process for Fairfield, I think it will reap very good rewards for the community in the years to come. Attracting investment, bringing new people in, and of course, once you can get that ball rolling, you jumpstart economic vitality. So watching the efforts of Ann and Marg in particular, who are the design architects of the RAC process, I have never seen the degree of organized thinking around building strategic planning as I've seen with this team. And of course, Connie, you probably were involved in the 2009 Go Green Plan. That was a great period, a good chapter. And I feel like we're standing on the shoulders of that effort and pushing it even further. So I can't think of a better investment that this community could make in keeping an organized, coherent approach to this sort of strategic planning. And I really welcome the next stage of the RAC process, whereby we actually get out in the community more and get more broad-based input into what the values of our community members are. So I would really encourage, I know resources are scarce. They're always scarce. Has there ever been a time when you were throwing money around? No, I don't think so. So but from my perspective, as an investment manager thinking about community investment, you have a wealth of resources in terms of the members who've volunteered countless hours towards this effort and are willing to carry this forward into the community. And I really would encourage the council to, help that process along. And key to it is somebody who gets out of bed every day and marshals the troops. And Faith has done just a tremendous job in organizing that. And I think when you see this document, for example, that's the sort of stuff Faith geeks out on, and she creates this stuff all the time. It's quite important in terms of being able to document and show outside grantors of money what the process has accomplished and where it's taking us. So I hope.
Quick question, Stuart. I'm interested in, you said that you, in your experience as an investment manager, you've seen where initiatives like this bring investment to a community.
Absolutely.
Do you have a couple specific examples you can
Very
point us to?
specific analogy. A good friend of mine, Gil Friend, is in the Sustainability Hall of Fame, was hired by the city of Palo Alto about 10 years ago as their sustainability coordinator. And what Gil brought was a focused effort to attract investment and through the school system start generating, literally in grade school, starting to bring a kind of a Palo Alto brand around sustainability leadership and innovation. The examples are many. That's one I had a firsthand experience with through my friendship with Gil. And you can look him up, Gil Friend. He's gone on to become a consultant and serves both corporate and community contractors. If we had a lot of money, we'd hire Gil to come in, although I don't think we need to, quite frankly. I think we have the A team right now. Now, granted, that's a different context, Palo Alto, California, than rural Iowa. But what do we all know about the status of rural communities of this size? We have to do a lot of bottom-up lifting if we're going to stay relevant and if we are going to even expand and grow. That means attracting industry and, most importantly, attracting young people who see an opportunity here. But I will say I have one client in San Diego who just bought a house for $1,350,000, and that's the starter home. And another individual I know here in town who bought an apartment building for $260,000. So this is our advantage, but we really need to think about how we market it and how we attract the appropriate people to develop the opportunities we have available to us. Thanks.
Thanks, Stuart. Any discussion points or questions, Council?
Good.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, Mark?
Could we, is it possible that you could schedule a personnel committee meeting? Do you know about that tonight?
Terry, you want to take that on? Okay. And then, I guess if you can go through all this, that'd be great.
Sure.
And that's agreeable to council overall? Have personnel look at it a little more in depth?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I think we
Okay, so we got about 3 minutes left, so we'll take a quick break until we start at 7. And it's gonna be a long council meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Rebecca, please call the roll.
Ham? Here. Toohill?
Here.
Esty? Yes. Flournoy?
Here.
Gandy?
Yes.
Kness?
Yes.
Rowe?
Here.
Thank you. There is a couple changes to the agenda tonight, Council. The first resolution was consideration of the housing policy, and that's not quite ready, so we would like to delete that. And in its place, set a public hearing on plan specifications and form of contract for lime removal, hauling, and disposal services for April 28th, 7 p.m. So if that's okay with you, I'm just going to insert that down there, and we'll move on from there. So let's move on to, there was nothing else, correct? Any council member have anything else? Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes of the March 24, 2025 council meeting. Approval of minutes of the March 31st, 2025 special council meeting. Approval of the March 28, 2025 payroll in the amount of $157,216.37. Approval of the April 11th, 2025 payroll in the amount of $152,680.78. Approval of the October, November, December, and January finance reports. Acceptance of Carnegie Museum Board minutes. Acceptance of Beautification Commission minutes. Volunteer Center Committee minutes. Resolution of promotion in the wastewater department. Approval of liquor license for Fairfield Golf and Country Club. Approval of ACH payment to the Department of Revenue in the amount of $22,421.27. Approval of total claims in the amount of $650,616.19. We had two claims over $75,000. Iowa Bridge and Culvert, which was for the Crow Creek Bridge, in the amount of $234,729.84. And also Play Power LT Farmington, this was for playground equipment at Heritage Park in the amount of $101,492.53.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Flournoy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any discussion?
I did review the claims and they all seemed in order.
Okay. I would just, and I mentioned this to Doug earlier, but just to point out, I guess, to the council that under the Carnegie Historical Museum, they're talking about putting a donate button on their website. And I think that is probably for the foundation and not for the Carnegie Museum itself. So I think we need to just clarify that and have them clarify that in the minutes, and if they can keep those minutes separate.
Is that a part of the city website? There.
Well,
We have a link
We
to
have a
it,
link to it.
but it's not created by
Yeah.
us.
because,
It's on a separate page on our website.
you know, we're trying to keep all those donations to foundations, not coming through the city. So, again, it's not very clear here. I think it's fine, but as long as we have a discussion with them to really keep those things separate. So, okay, so we do have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other questions? Now please call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Kness?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Esty?
Yes, I just have to abstain from the special meeting minutes. I wasn't there.
Okay. Ham?
Yes.
Okay, public forum and appearances, Daryn Hamilton with Kiwanis and Collectors Cars Unlimited.
Council, Mayor, how are you all this evening?
Good.
Well, I'm back here for yet another year with the Fairfield Kiwanis Club. We got a lot of big things happening this year at the Fairfield Kiwanis Club. This is the beginning of our 60th year in Fairfield. Our charter was created in December of 1965. So we've been here for a long time trying to do and build things for kids and for entertainment for the community, and all of the projects that we've gotten in through the years that we've been here. Many things have changed. Our club size has gotten smaller over these last few years, and we're hoping that we can get some more interest from the community, because an organization that can survive for 60 years deserves to have people that want it to continue for another 60. I'm here to ask about Kids Day, Kiwanis Kids Day, coming up on September 20th of this year. The theme for the parade is Adventure Awaits. We've already put that out through our Facebook page, and we've had a lot of people show interest that they want to get their floats at least designed and thought about so that they know what they're going to do for the parade. In all the years that I've been in Kiwanis, since 1998, we've had one time that we didn't have the parade because of rain. We had real lightning scare that year. We had one time that we didn't do the parade because of COVID. And the rest of the time we've done it since 1966. So we have a few little quirks as to which one this is going to be for us. I say it's 58 years that we've done this, not continuously, but 58 of those 60 years we have done this. So I look forward to us doing it again. We want to be able to use the square like we had in the past, where we have our tent on the east side, the northeast quadrant of the square, and closing off parking on the half a block of Main Street up to Broadway, across on the south side of Broadway on the north side of the square, and then 2 lanes on the east side of the square for the tent and room for people to walk through and still allow traffic to get by so that we aren't blocking any streets during that time. The parade again will start at 10 o'clock in the morning as usual, and we'll start at the high school. We'll go west on Broadway across to Main Street. We'll turn and go north on Main Street up to Grimes on the south side of the park. Then we'll come back south on Court to Briggs, and then Briggs all the way back to the high school. That's been a really good parade route for us. We made that change probably 10 or more years ago now to try to get safety for the children and parade participants away from having to go down what used to be Highway 34, the main thoroughfare through the town here, and have kids out there in that mix, and we didn't like it, so we did make that change.
Daryn, when do you want to start blocking off? I noticed last year, I had at least one call, they thought it was early to start blocking off.
Thursday evening, we need to have everything blocked off, because we put up the tent.
Like starting at 5?
Well, we put up the tent starting at 4.
Oh, okay.
So somebody will probably be out there blocking off the area where the tent goes on Wednesday. That won't be me this year. It'll be another member from the club, but we'll get them all worked out with what the details are.
Someone should probably put up barriers on Wednesday then to prevent people from parking there so that.
Yeah, we're
we
gonna
don't
need
have
some
to-
barriers.
But just where the tent is. I think
Yeah,
the
just
others
for the
is
tent.
early.
Early on that.
No, the other, if I can, in some years, Kiwanis weekend has fallen on homecoming weekend, and I don't know what next year's schedule is, and so that's why there has been the last couple years, the whole square has been shut down like on Thursday so that we can have that blocked off for homecoming. So
Yeah.
there is stuff shut down for Kiwanis, but then it's also shut down for homecoming. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not all Daryn's fault. I mean,
Yes, it is.
Okay, you're off, Daryn.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
try hard. So that's kind of the nutshell on Kiwanis Kids Day. This is what we'd like to do. We're in the process of trying to get 70 cones purchased from traffic devices so that we can use those and try to rely less on help from the city for getting barricades out and around through the parade route. We won't have enough cones to do everything. We'll still need a few things here and there, but it won't be like it's been in the past or this past year. I know Joe was in here, but he's already gone. So I'll talk to him about that when we get a little closer to it. My next show here is the car show. We're looking at close to 50 years of having the car show, Collector Cars Unlimited, up on the square. And that's going to be on September 21st, the day after Kids Day. So beyond Kids Day and the car show and possibly the high school football game, there might not be much parking on the square for about 3 days. So we've also looked at doing cruise nights again, 2 different times like we did last year. Our first one was pretty successful. Our second one wasn't as successful as the first one, but we're hoping that we're going to get a little traction and have more of that going. And we do those in conjunction with First Friday Art Walks. June 6th would be the first one, and August 1st would be the second one. Our club has already contacted Marla Brader and spoke to her. She wanted us to come to the council and ask for those 2 nights specifically so that there wasn't any conflict for her with the First Friday Art Walks and us being out there. On those nights, we would like to have all of the parking around the inside of the square. And I know that becomes very difficult because we have so many people that park on the square all night long ever since that ordinance was changed here several years ago now. And it's made it pretty difficult to get some of the parking spaces closed off for the events that we have. And we've even had cases where we've had to have people tracked down by their license plate to get them to come and move their car from the area that we're doing this in. So I would like help from the council, at least making sure we get word out there that we're going to be closing off some parking in some areas during these events so that we can get some help to not have everyone that lives upstairs downtown park right on the square itself. Used to be we never had that.
Yeah.
So
let's take one of these at a time.
Sure.
So let's talk about Kiwanis, September 20th. And you've mentioned about the inside of the square on the Court Street, you want 2 lanes closed. And so is there a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Kness, second by Flournoy. Any discussion?
Homecoming is the week prior.
All right, homecoming's a week prior. Okay. So it'll just be two weeks in a row. But, so that'll be okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, that approved unanimously.
thank you very much, Council.
So Collector Cars Unlimited is September 21. That's the Sunday after the Kids Day Parade. And what's the configuration there?
The configuration is we close all of the parking on the square itself, but we allow cars to, if they're coming from the west on Broadway, they'll be able to turn and go north on Main Street.
Okay.
Or if they're coming south on Court, they'll be able to turn and go to the east on Broadway.
Okay.
So we want to leave those open as we did last year. We had some really good success with that. It also makes it look like we've got a much larger crowd for the car show. We usually get between 100 and 120 cars that come for the show. And so we need all the space to do that, but we found that putting cars up the side streets, as we used to do, isn't really effective in drawing people in.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see that there's something actually going on the square rather than a bunch of people up this way and over this way
Yeah.
and whatnot. So that's our same goal again this year, is to do the car show that way.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve that configuration?
So moved.
Moved by Esty,
Second.
second by Ham. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that one's
Thank
passed
you very
unanimously
much.
as well. The last one is First Fridays, the June and August First Fridays for the
Yes.
cruise nights.
Yes.
And you want parking on the inside of the square available.
Right, basically the two lanes that are around the inside of the square, would be the ones we would want to block off. We would have traffic still going around the outside. If we have enough cars, we'll be able to put them all next to the square and then have a few lined up in that center lane
Okay.
around the outside of it.
Okay. Council, is there a motion to approve that?
What time are we gonna start?
Well, the cruise night usually is 5 till 8, whenever somebody wants to get in their car and drive home. But people come in, they'll have supper, they'll hang out with their friends on the square with their cars. Some of them will go around and look at all the art exhibits on the art walk, so it'll get some more people looking at those. And
But what time
Well,
are they,
it was-
what time are they coming in with their cars? When do
they
you?
should be coming in sometime between 5 and 6 p.m. So we want to get the square areas closed off before 5 o'clock.
We're gonna have vendors with the art walk parking their vehicles there also.
Marla has talked about that. We dealt with that last year in the August art walk, because that's their food truck night. She only had one food truck that needed one spot on the southeast corner of the square. She had her other food trucks lined up along Burlington, there on the south side of the square, and we didn't pose a difficulty for her that way. Marla is just concerned that she wants to make sure that the council says it's all right to go ahead and move forward with this.
Okay. All righty.
I move to
Make a motion that
approve.
we approve.
Okay. Moved by Flournoy.
Second.
Second by Kness. Any other discussion?
I think that we probably talked about this during RAGBRAI. The potential of putting up signage on the areas that will be closed, because we didn't do a phenomenal job of it at RAGBRAI.
I faced
So-
that same beast.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it would behoove us to find some sort of temporary signage that we could put up that these, spaces are closed during this time and this time. And it's very obvious 2 or 3 days beforehand that if your car is still there on that day, it will be towed.
So Jason, can we put posts in the ground with a no parking?
I would think so.
Just like on a parking meter?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, the club has gone out and placed flyers on all the cars on the square, usually starting Thursday night before the events.
I think we need to start a little bit sooner than that in case someone's
Well,
in town.
on
They probably
on
shouldn't be
the
parking
cruise
on the
nights, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll need to start earlier than that. But for the show itself, if we start putting those on cars about that time, a lot of people follow those
Yep.
and follow what it says on it, that we're only gonna be there for one day. Sorry for the inconvenience, but, public likes the use of the square for different
Certainly.
events, and these are events that I think draw a lot of people to the community.
Also
Yes.
then, I think those drivers who are coming for your event need some kind of special thing to put, like, in their car or something, so that others know that they have priority to park there compared to someone who is going to a restaurant to eat, because they may see the folks park and get out and go to a restaurant. So your cars are gonna need a special designation.
We have window cards.
Okay.
I'm sure Ray is familiar
Yeah.
with window cards.
Yeah.
We give those out to all of the participants that come in, and we'll be out there having them come into those areas, and we're going to have the street marked off with the cones or barricades.
But I meant
all
they
the way
need to
around.
display them so that
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people know too, because that's
Right.
been part of the thing. The general public or even visitors in town don't know the difference between who has that privilege and who doesn't. And so I think we really need to make that distinguished. So thank you.
Sure, we'll work on that.
Okay, so we do have a first and second to approve the cruise nights in June and August. So if there's no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great.
Thank you very much,
Good luck.
council.
Is that something that you guys just make a note of? How do we ensure that the temporary no parking happens, that we just don't forget to do it? Do we
I'll
have a
be
process
around
for
to
that at this
remind
point?
somebody.
Has that been a big problem in the past?
There has been a few difficulties
Few
in the
difficulties,
past.
but that's-
with
you're- okay.
People not
Yeah, I don't
adhering
think
to
it was
what
as
we
much
put up
as
or anything
this
like that.
event as RAGBRAI. we heard about it a lot last year.
Yeah, I
Right,
remember
right.
that. That's why I guess I was just confused because it
Yeah.
seemed like he
No,
was
I
just
was just
asking
trying
us
to
to block the
implement, like,
streets
a
off,
best
and then it
case
seems like
practice.
it's turning into something.
Our club
that
hears
maybe-
about that
Okay.
quite a little bit, but, you know, we want to put this on, we want to continue to have it. We think it's a great thing for the kids in the community
Yeah.
and all the adults.
Well, and if we develop a practice, then we can continue that practice over and over again, and that way it becomes, you know, everyone
Routine.
knows
The norm.
routine. Everyone
Yes.
knows what's happening, and
Yes.
I think it's a good practice.
All right,
Just-
well,
Great.
thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And council, if it's okay, I'm going to switch these next two things around because we have a distinguished guest here today, Miss Kate Miller. And she has won the If I Were a Mayor contest. And the grand prize, in fact, for the state of Iowa. So I'm going to come out here and do you want to say a little something again?
I can.
Yeah, why don't you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. If I Were a Mayor essay contest is a statewide competition for the 7th graders, which asks them what they would do if they were elected mayor of their hometown. We know that our future leaders are in our classrooms today. Promoting good city government and further connecting our youth to our community is important to the Iowa League of Cities. The league has run this contest for 10 years, and each year we are impressed by the forethought, compassion, and ingenuity of Iowa students. This year we received more than 350 submissions from all across the state. With the help of the Iowa Mayors Association, one essay was selected from each congressional district, with a grand prize winner selected from these 4. Through the generous sponsorship by Snyder and Associates, we offer each winner a $250 scholarship, the grand prize winner receiving a $500 scholarship. This year, our District 1 winner and grand prize winner is Kate Miller. Her essay emphasized supporting small businesses, adding community green spaces, and taking care of our first responders. A deserving essay that impressed our review panel of Iowa mayors. With that, I turn it over to Mayor Bauer to present the award. And I need to get a picture.
As you can see, she just came from a track meet. Sir.
Oh, sorry.
Is that a real camera that nobody has?
Congratulations. And again, if you want to highlight a couple things about what you said in your essay, you mind?
I talked about creating green spaces and promoting people's mental health, supporting like first responders and making laws that like protect them and help them.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations to Mom and Dad.
There you go.
Sorry about last time.
You're fine.
You get to read the essay? Where's the essay?
I can send it to you.
Okay, sure. So we did have a student, a Marshall student, who won 3rd or 4th place a few years ago. So it's kind of neat. This is a second winner, and she won the whole shebang. And she gets a nice little scholarship with that. So that's pretty neat. Okay, Lindsay Bauer's next to talk about Fairfield Arts and Convention Center.
Good evening, council members. My name is Lindsay Bauer. I'm the executive director of the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center, and I will keep my remarks brief and fascinating. I know your day has been at least as long as mine, so thank you for allowing me to take up your time this evening. Rebecca sent a couple of attachments for you. You don't need to look at them right now. I'm going to summarize them for you, and then if you'd like to look more in depth later, feel free to do so. I want to start with the Create in Iowa report. This was a statewide survey that was conducted in partnership with the Iowa Arts Council and the Iowa Cultural Coalition. We interviewed over 100 city planners, chambers of commerce, EDAs, and arts attendees across the state, and looked at tons of data. Data is my favorite thing. Yes.
What's an EDA?
Economic Development Authority or Association, depending on the community. So FEDA for us is our economic development. Thank you for asking. It's a very large report. It's detailed and comprehensive, so I'm going to draw your attention to just a couple of key pages. I do encourage reading the full report. I know that you don't have a lot of other things to do on your non-council time, so feel free to jump right in, but just in case your time is crunched, I want to draw your attention to page 12. Page 12 has a pretty comprehensive look at what, or an anecdotal and comprehensive look at what involvement in the arts does for a community. And then I also want to draw your attention to pages 17 through 19, which focus specifically on rural communities. I really appreciated this morning you all presenting and department heads presenting the full city budget for public consumption and public comment. I think that it's really important to recognize that not all of us take advantage of all of the services that a community offers, but all of us benefit from the collective, holistic benefit. You don't have to have a child or a grandchild to appreciate that a playground makes it easier for you to get better health care, because the things that make our community strong make our workforce strong. And those things, that ripple effect is really important. In 2024, the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center received just about 45,000 visits, and a third of those come from Fairfield residents. That means that 2/3 of those visits come from non-Fairfield residents, if you're keeping track here. And over 15% of those visits come from attendees from over 50 miles away. That means they come here to spend their money. That means they come here to buy their gas and their coffee and their dinner and their hotel rooms. There is always a misunderstanding about tourism in a small town. We live here and we tour other places, so we think that nobody wants to come here. We know that that's not true. Fairfield is a wonderful place, and all of the items that make Fairfield a wonderful place benefit the rest of the community, regardless of how many actual members have been to a movie at the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center and Cinema Fairfield or have attended a performance. The collective benefit is still there, and I appreciate that the council understands that. I also appreciate that the council helps fund the building maintenance and repair budget with lost funds. I appreciate that that does not come out of the property tax budget. Thank you for not asking me to defend that in town. However, I wanted to give you some talking points, as I know you are asked to defend those decisions around town. And that's what the Create in Iowa report is for. It shows actual data, actual statistics about what investments in the arts, especially in small towns, does for the entire community, not just the weird ones and the ones with blue hair. It's a collective community effort, and those are pretty wide-reaching. I want to pivot to our fiscal year 2024 annual report, which came out this autumn. I apologize that I didn't come to you in the autumn with this report. I'm coming to you now because we are at a point where we are jumping off from the success of fiscal year 2024 into greater success planned in fiscal year 2026. We achieved a 50% increase in average attendance over pre-pandemic numbers in 2024. This is outrageous.
Awesome.
It's wonderful to be able to brag to all my colleagues around the region who are not as cool. But it's also a real indication that the efforts we've made over the past 5 years to be useful to this community are working. We are only as successful as we are useful, and that is our goal. With that goal in mind, we also have expanded our arts and education programming. The Sally Reinhardt Johnston Arts and Education Program served 1,000 students last year and is on track to serve more in the coming years. This is a really big deal for not only Fairfield students, but we're bringing in schools from New London and Burlington, from Danville, from all of our surrounding communities as well. This is really important to us, that we be a resource for as many communities as possible. We have a privilege here in Fairfield. We have one of the largest performing arts centers and the largest, most comprehensive performing arts programs. For a town our size, it really is silly. But we are able to support that because the community supports us. Our budget every year runs about between 1.1, 1.2 million each year. And we are currently sitting at approximately 55 to 45 earned to contributed. So 55% of our budget comes from program expenses, admissions, rentals, things like that. And 45% of our budget comes from contributions. We are looking to build on that success going forward, and because we operate a city-owned building, I want to make sure that you're aware of what we have planned for that building. We are looking again to increase our usefulness to this community. And with that in mind, we are looking at our public-facing spaces, lobby areas, meeting areas, the theater itself. It has not had a facelift in nearly 20 years. I have changed my wardrobe since then. It is time to take a look at that. We have noticed that some of our most lucrative revenue streams, i.e. weddings, large events, big parties, we're starting to lose some of that business. And we're looking at where that business is going, and we're finding that venues that have been carefully crafted to attract that business, i.e. the pretty ones, are benefiting from that. In order to remain competitive, that's something that we need to pay attention to so that we stay relevant and we stay at the top of that curve. It is something that the community is asking for, and we need to be standing in front of that need. Therefore, in the coming year, we will be embarking on a $450,000 capital campaign. I am not asking that to come out of the city budget. I want to let you know that we have taken your investment and we are growing it. We are giving it back to the community, and we are making sure that we remain a resource. $450,000 will replace our lobby furniture, pieces that are very beautiful but aging and breaking and no longer safe, and are some pieces beyond repair. It will replace the sound treatments in our expo hall area, our largest meeting space. I don't have the renderings yet. This has been a 2-year design process that is finally completed. I can't wait to show you the pictures. It's extremely beautiful. It also is taking a look at all of our lighting. You've heard me, some of you in the property committee as well, have heard me talk about the lighting throughout the building is old. And some of those ballasts are going bad. Most of that has been replaced with LED. We took another phase 45 of that process this year, and we're watching that make a difference both in the ways that we're able to serve the community and in ways that we're saving on our utility bill, which means that's more dollars we can pump back into the programming. I hit all my notes. Are there any questions from you? Thank you so much for your time.
Lindsay.
I appreciate all of you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Okay, we're going to move on to resolution action items, ordinances. The first action item is consideration towards Sunrise Trail infrastructure project.
Good evening, Council. We opened bids for the Sunrise Trail subdivision on April 10th. We received 5 bids. The low bid was from Phi Excavating of Sperry, Iowa. The low bid was for $1,437,913.42. I would like to thank all the contractors who submitted bids for this project, as it's a lot of time and effort to submit bids for the project. The other contractors that submitted bids were Cornerstone Excavating, Drish Construction, DeLong Construction, and RG Construction. Based on the bid I received, I would recommend awarding the contract to Phi Excavating of Sperry, Iowa, and I'm here to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
I believe we have a policy, maybe you can tell me, where if another bid from a local business is within a certain percentage of the original bid, that we can take the higher bid if we wish.
That ordinance only applies to contracts under $200,000.
Okay. You knew that.
Great. Other questions? Not, is there a motion to approve Phi Construction?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Esty.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Further questions or discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Great, that was approved unanimously to give this contract to Phi Excavating. So looking forward to making that happen. Okay. Next action item is consideration of printing 200 copies of JCHCs, that's the hospital's community resource booklets, not to exceed $1,000 from opioid
Wait.
funds. This was discussed
Excuse
at,
me. You said what was it that was just awarded? Just before.
Sunrise Trail Infrastructure,
What was awarded? What was the name of the company?
Phi Construction.
Excavating, right?
What did I say? Excavating.
Yeah,
Right, did I
okay.
say construction?
No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I can dig it. I had to say it.
If it's
Couldn't let it go. I did.
Yeah, you took extra time for that, Paul?
I did.
Seriously?
It's gonna be a
did.
long meeting, Paul.
Okay, if we're not out of here by 9, we know who to blame.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So at the last opioid meeting, there has been a request from some different organizations like our ambulance service and a couple other places in the community that would like to have actual printed copies of the resource booklet that the Jefferson County Health Center put together with all our community resources for medical, mental health. It's a big gamut there. And so it was moved to print 200 copies, again, not to exceed $1,000 from opioid funds, and see how long those last. So this may come back if they go quickly. But anyway, so.
Was there we had a presentation here a few years ago from a gentleman named Zane,
Yes,
who had a trifold with a bunch of resources on it also.
yes, this is much more
It's more
comprehensive.
comprehensive, but it includes everything that was on his.
Oh, I would think so, yeah.
Could we each have a copy of one of these?
Yes.
He did hand them out to us. Or,
Yeah, but I meant this one that's more comprehensive.
Yeah,
Could
we can get some copies.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
and
think
there's
the
some
others would too.
general, the public health department printed off of their website, and it was, I don't know, wow.
$50. It's, I can't remember.
I can't remember how many
It's not
pages that
much.
was, but we could also print some like that, just make copies.
And it is online. It's just really for those populations that maybe don't go online
Oh,
or,
okay.
you know, they're in crisis and they need help right away.
Yeah, yeah. So, is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
A move by Ham,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Flournoy,
yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That was approved unanimously. Okay, so the next is to set a public hearing. Again, the resolution of the housing policy has been deleted, and we're adding this in its place. Set public hearing on plan specifications and form of contract. I had trouble reading my own handwriting, Melanie.
Yep.
Form of contract for lime removal, hauling, and disposal services, and we'll set this for April 28th, our next meeting at 7 p.m.
So the one thing I want to point out to the council is typically we have a public hearing prior to receiving bids. This project, we are scheduled to receive bids on the 24th. In this situation, so I wanted to point that out to you before you set the public hearing. In this situation, though, the lime is being removed from the water treatment plant. The work is occurring during the regular business hours of the water plant. So even the neighbors around the water treatment plant, it's during 7:30 to 5 p.m. are the working hours for the contractor. So although we don't like to accept the bids and then have a public hearing for the public, I don't believe that there's a lot of concern for the general public on this issue. So just wanted to point it out that it's a different process than what we normally take. Unfortunately, we published the wrong notice in the paper and did not get, we published the notice to bidders, not the notice of the public hearing, and didn't get it on tonight's agenda, so.
So again, I'll read this so that, because the council doesn't have it in front of them. Set public hearing on plan specifications and form of contract for lime removal, hauling, and disposal services for April 28th, 7 p.m. Is there a motion to
I'll
approve?
make the motion to approve the public hearing for that night.
Moved by
For that purpose.
Flournoy.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Kness.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Approved unanimously. Next resolution, consideration of amendment to the financial policy. You're up.
So, okay. So, as we're going through the financial policy, and we'll go over some more, but some of the changes that absolutely need to be addressed is the controls of funds coming in and funds leaving, especially through committees. We have a lot of appointed committees that actually have budgets that we give those funds to, and they sometimes, if we need to spell out exactly what those controls are and how cities operate. When you're dealing with municipal funds, they absolutely operate completely different than your own personal checkbook or even that of a 501c3. And so these controls are in place so that we understand as a city, especially as these committee members go out and represent the city, they need to act as if they are, and those rules need to be defined. So I've discussed this with the mayor and internally with administration, that we absolutely need to define how that money is being spent, and no different than with department heads, that if they hit a $5,000 threshold, they absolutely need to submit quotes and where those things are. But we strongly encourage that no matter what amount of money is being spent, that we should always go out and look for the best deals. Secondly, that when the auditors come in, they often will flag us if we're just reimbursing individuals on their personal credit cards. And so we need to make sure that those funds are being, coming through the city, and those bills are being paid through the city, and they're coded correctly and how things are operated. So that is exactly what these changes are. Is it is very specifically designed so that anybody that is representing the city or working for the city, they know the rules of the game, and that the council has control of money in and money out. Is that fair?
Yep. Tom has a question.
I'm just curious. I think I kind of know what spurred this, but what does this address that we didn't already have in place?
So, what does it address? So it absolutely defines the amount of money that, for instance, that specifically says if there's a purchase of $1,000, it absolutely has to have 3 written quotes.
Okay.
That was not in the policy before. Our current policy says that department heads, they need to get quotes if they spend $5,000. So at $4,999, they don't really need quotes. I say internally in department heads that if it's over $500, we should have quotes so that we can actually track those and define those. That also, that if there's money coming in, it's defined, because we do have a lot of people that just hand the city money and they say it's for this. And then we put it in as they said, and then they want to use it for something else. We can only move that money out exactly the way it is. And then secondly, that typically if let's say the water treatment plant, they go for training, which they do, and they'll usually take a city credit card with them, or if they're going to be reimbursed, that all of those receipts are brought with them for meals and what have you. And it's pre-approved, and there's a form filled out way in advance so that we can plan and we know what we're looking at. So when the auditors come in, we can actually show that to them and demonstrate it.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, there's a couple committees that really, I think it affects right away, and that is the Arbor Committee, because they are buying trees. A Beautification Committee could affect potentially Volunteer Center or projects they're doing, but most of that has not, what they've done has not been coming into general fund. Volunteer Center is, no, let me take that back. The Jefferson County Mental Health Alliance is coming out from underneath the Volunteer Center, just so you know. They're starting their own 501c3, so.
If someone gives
Yeah.
money to a particular committee, it doesn't go through City Hall, it's still the city's money, right?
It needs to come through city.
Yeah.
But if that's one of the problems, is that they're raising money, committees might be raising money, and it doesn't come through City Hall, and then they go out and spend that money.
To
Well,
my
that's a
knowledge,
potential
everything
issue.
has been coming in,
Yeah.
to my knowledge.
Or,
To my knowledge, everything
But-
has been coming in.
Right, but
or
it's
goes,
not clear whether they can do that or not, or should do it or not.
Yeah.
Is that,
or it goes through a foundation, and that's the other thing is we, like the Parks and Rec Foundation. That's why that is there, is people will donate money for the playground equipment that's coming in, and playground equipment's $150,000, and so. 501c3, and John is a bigger expert in this than I am. They can actually, a lot of the rules that apply to us don't apply to them, so they don't have to. I'm not real sure that a 501c3 has to work around bid laws or, those sorts of things.
They don't.
But we do. So it's really that control in place that we need to make sure that we're tracking those funds, and if they were raising money for the community garden, and where those went. Those went separate places, but once they land into our coffers, then all of those rules apply, and that we need to make sure that we're tracking them and making sure that we're not getting written up. So we're just trying to be careful.
We've got active committees, and we want to make sure that they understand what their rules are and their obligations are, and this spells it out in writing.
Yeah. And we can modify those as time goes on if we find other things.
my initial reaction is I thought $1,000 to get 3 quotes was kind of a low number. Is it too wrong?
Is a low number
Yeah, it should be higher than that. You said 5,000 a minute ago for a department head,
for department heads, and that makes me uncomfortable.
so you went over to 1,000 from 5,000.
Yeah. I mean, but it's at the council's
I'm just kind of
discretion.
curious how much more work that would generate for employees. We need to go out and get 2 more.
5 minutes.
Okay. So off Amazon or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can search them on the internet, and we actually have it defined where, they can be phone calls, or once they hit a threshold, they actually have to be written quotes. But we do that even with just buying office chairs. It's important.
I move to amend the financial policy.
Okay, moved by Esty.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Additional questions or comments?
So are we amending it to, what does the resolution say? Are we amending the policy with these suggested changes?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is it the council's sense that there's no need for us to do any further review of the amended policy? That's what the motion is proposing.
I was thinking about that, whether we should go to Ways and Means for more in-depth consideration, but
I mean, the policy is just being brought to us this evening, I think. I mean, we had a chance, I suppose, to look at it the last couple of days. It's fairly significant policy, financial policy. I think it might worth be
it's
worthwhile.
it's probably 10 years old, that policy.
It's just, all it's doing is protecting the people that are on the committees. It's keeping them above suspicion. So nobody's doing buddy projects or something like that. It's really put in place not to give them more work. It's put in place to protect them.
Okay.
So
And give them written instructions. So
Okay.
everybody, so it's clear.
It's okay. So it's this council's sense that, I guess we'll know when we vote, that we're comfortable with this change with no further review by the council.
Yeah.
yeah, and there's not much change to it. I mean, there's, you kind of spelled out the only two things that it would affect. So,
Okay.
and I don't see either one of those as being a big. Personally, I don't see either one of those as being a big stumbling block as to getting work done. So.
I also feel like too, I mean, the city administrator would be the appropriate person to be making these suggestions to us.
Okay, with that, we do have a motion and a second. No other questions, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Financial policy approved unanimously. Next resolution, consideration of dissolution of the Jefferson County 28E Ambulance Service Agency. Tom, are you going to talk about this, or John? Which one of you?
The resolution authorizes our representative, Tom, to basically
Fix the time.
act in his discretion at the meeting tomorrow, which is intended to dissolve the 2080 agency. That's the way I see it. But this just indicates that we're aware of it and he's authorized. That the way you
Yes.
perceive what you're
Yes.
going to do tomorrow, Tom?
Unless anybody still wants to be part of the ambulance service.
Good.
There's a lawsuit about that.
Not anymore.
So,
Oh, no. I make the motion that we approve the resolution to dissolve the 28E.
Motion
Agency.
by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any further discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
yes.
Kness.
Yes.
Okay, that was approved unanimously. Don't make it a long meeting tomorrow, Tom.
Well, the attorneys will be there tomorrow, so I can't promise anything on that.
Okay, next resolution, consideration of addition to nuisance abatement schedule of assessments. This is one that was taken off last time and put back on. Any, related to unpaid mowing charges of $330. I think it was determined that these were appropriate.
Yeah, it was referred to property committee. We met last Monday and reviewed all the documentation. I did invite Ms. Goodwin to attend, but she was not there. And so we did have a motion to recommend to council to proceed with the original charges. And then I emailed her also that she could show up tonight and appeal that decision if she wanted to full council, but she's not here.
Okay,
So I would recommend that we go ahead and amend the abatement list.
okay, moved by Flournoy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Esti. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes again.
Did I say that again? Sorry.
I didn't
missed the
second.
first
I didn't
time.
second.
I'll
She
say
Oh,
seconded it.
Esti, I'm sorry.
Yes.
all right.
People confuse us all the time.
Sorry.
Great, thank
That's my
you.
one.
Next resolution, consideration of ratifying, confirming, and approving publication of notice of public hearing for the issuance of not to exceed $3.7 million general obligation urban renewal capital loan notes. Again, this is for our Highway 1 and Sunrise Trail infrastructure projects.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gandy, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Approved unanimously. Next is the public hearing. Consideration on the matter of authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $3.7 million general obligation Earl Renewal capital loan notes. And I think I'm supposed to ask you if we had any written objections.
We had none.
Okay. And with that, I'll open a public hearing to see if anybody wants to speak regarding this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and we will move on to the next resolution. Consideration of instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $3,700,000 general obligation urban renewal capital loan notes.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy.
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Kness?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next is our capital improvements plan. Melanie, if you wouldn't mind just giving us what you think are the most important highlights here before I open the public hearing.
Considering we had our presentation today, I'm not sure how much you guys want me to go into it. We didn't really get into the details beyond fiscal year 26. Are we all done for today? Move to approve.
Hey, I have a question.
Okay. I mean, I have a presentation, but I have no idea what appetite you guys have for tonight, so.
Yes, well, one of my questions is Piper Sandler will update our debt schedule. When is that anticipated to happen?
So with the notes that you just went through the public hearing, we actually have a meeting with them tomorrow. I don't know that they're gonna update it as a result of that. But that debt schedule assumed that our next debt would be occurring in 27 rather than now. So the debt for Sunrise Trail can be paid off with TIF and or GO bonds. And so that would change that schedule a little bit. Also, the fire station is that debt is a little bit behind what that schedule shows. So that's gonna move when our next available debt is, or our next, what's the word I'm looking for? Capacity.
Yeah.
Comes up. The way that chart shows is that our next capacity would be in 29, I believe, 29 or 30. And what I have shown in the report is that the city should strongly consider the funding of the aerial fire truck for that next debt capacity. And we'll discuss that with Travis as far as what the dollar figure is, how soon our next capacity is available.
Okay, great.
Melanie, for the benefit of the public, maybe who weren't able to view this morning's report, could you expand a little bit on what is a capital improvements plan?
Yeah.
What it is basically and what we're planning, what you'd like to have us do?
Yeah. So the capital improvements plan is, or we call it a CIP, it's a supplement to the budget, not replacing the budget, but just covering the larger items, the projects and the purchases that the departments have. By approving it, you're authorizing the funds and the projects for fiscal year 26, but then also kind of the general direction for the following 4 years. An example of approving kind of that general direction is in and I talked about it a little bit this morning with the Lamson Woods Trail Bridge, is fiscal year 26 has some preliminary engineering for that bridge. You don't have to move forward with construction in fiscal year 27, but if we're doing preliminary engineering in 26, it's nice to turn around and not and do the construction in fiscal year 27. The document does change. It is a living document as projects come in over budget or under budget, like the great bids that we got for Sunrise Trail. We can modify things, move them around. The one change that we saw between last year's plan and this year's plan is I did move the Main and Burlington traffic light up a year. So having some design working on that grant application in fiscal year 26 with trying to get the construction in fiscal year 27. I had it a year farther than that, And so what I did in order to make that work is I moved some culvert repairs around. I work really hard on stacking all of these different layers of our available funds, and then coordinating the different departments. So making sure that we get the utilities replaced before we build the street, and then of course, and then making sure that we also look at those purchases that are needed, such as pumps or HVAC equipment. And so balancing all of those things, I say it's kind of this 3D puzzle that's always a challenge each year. But it's also it's fun too, to try and figure out how to make it all work.
I'm glad you think it's fun.
You're awesome, Melanie.
Just to be clear, fiscal year 26 actually begins July 1, 25.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
And that's the budget year that the next public hearing is on. One thing that has been a large, I guess, discussion over the last couple years is what we called unfunded capital assets. So part of the capital improvements plan includes a schedule of capital assets, or I'll say the things, the vehicles, the pumps, the HVAC systems, the roofs, the things that have tangible value to the city. It's not including the water mains and the streets, but those things that we could sell if we needed to. But they're also the things that are important that if they fail tomorrow, the city can't do their jobs. And so the capital assets list has an estimated need by date as far as when we think those items may need to be replaced. And we have struggled over the last several years getting the amount of needs to match up with our budget. Through SURF and LOST, by putting some of that money towards replacing things such as HVAC equipment and vehicles rather than working on streets and water main, we have been able to close that gap quite a bit. We still have a few things such as the Parks shop, the Burlington and Court traffic signal that aren't showing up on the capital improvements plan, but hopefully, we can come up with a solution that just gets rid of the Burlington and Court traffic signal, and we don't have to worry about that. Continuing to find funding sources, but we're really there's been a lot of progress made on closing that gap. Calvin mentioned today that the pool is 10 years old. A lot of building maintenance starts to occur at that 20-year mark. So I would encourage the Council of Park and Rec to start to take an inventory of the Park and Rec systems in the next few years. Doing maintenance schedules, because just as we start to get a handle on all the other departments, we're going to start seeing needs in that facility. Those cooling units are much larger than the one here at City Hall, and they're not going to be something that we're just going to have a little bit of lost money left over at the end of the fiscal year that we can use to replace those if they need to be. So that's probably, in addition to the fire truck and Burlington, the other thing that keeps me up at night is the Park and Rec facility and that coming up in a longer term plan. So I think we have a really good handle on the next couple years. But as we look, my job, always looking 5 years, 10 years down the road, and I think that the rec center and as well as Burlington are some of those big kind of items that we need to keep in mind as we look at other expenses the city might be considering. Those are things that really we haven't discussed yet, but they are out there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I saw in there that there's going to be some repair work done on Chautauqua Road.
That is in one of the years in the future.
Does that mean all the way around Chautauqua Park?
Right. I believe that estimate is for I can't remember if that estimate was seal coat or asphalt, but it would be an overlay to that road. So it wouldn't be a complete reconstruction.
And now I just thought of the cemetery roads. Is there any plan to address that question?
That is not in there. Though that, I don't believe that negotiations or anything has occurred.
Real quick, what is SURF again?
Capital Improvements Reserve Fund.
Okay.
And just a reminder for the public, that was a levy that was voted in November of 23. It was agreed to for 25 years, and it is 67.5 cents per thousand, and it produces around $240,000 per year.
Okay. So with that, I will open the public hearing regarding the capital improvements plan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on the CIP plan? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And it's up for the council's consideration to approve this plan.
Make the motion to approve the fiscal year 26 capital improvements plan.
Okay, moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any further questions or discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Great, thank you. That was approved unanimously. I'm just gonna, one fun fact. The city has 58 miles of streets, 74 miles of sanitary sewer, and 92 miles of water main. That's a lot. Alrighty. Then I am going to open the public hearing on the matter of our fiscal year 26 budget. Currently, just again, so you know, the current levy is 17.65066, and somewhere I wrote, I thought I did.
97 cents here.
Yeah, last year was 16.68. So, would anybody like to speak regarding the budget? Oh, please, if you'll come to the microphone and give us your name and what ward you live in.
My name is Jonathan Lawrence. I'm not sure what ward I'm in, but I live like right next to the university.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to just talk about just my experience working with the sustainability coordinator. First of all, I've gotten the chance to work with her the last year on a volunteer basis. Just so you know, I'm not getting paid to say this. This position has provided organization, facilitation, and community building. Having someone dedicated to the issues plaguing a community in a holistic way is so vital. Having somebody on the ground who's building connections and relationships with the community and its businesses keeps us looking ahead to the future by looking out for grant opportunities. And lastly, I'll just say, sometimes I feel like community decisions are made with some perspectives not being taken into account. Sustainability coordinator would provide the kind of perspective that looks into the long-term success of projects and highlights factors beyond if it will just make money. Obviously, you know, we want to see a prosperous Fairfield and we need money to see out those changes, but I just feel like this position helps expand our view of the problem and find solutions that benefit us all. So, yeah.
Thank you. Can you tell us your background?
So, I got a degree from Maharishi International University in Regenerative Ag and Sustainable Living, and also a degree from Michigan State in Business Management.
Great. Thank you. Just gives a little context.
Yeah.
Is anyone else want to speak? If not, I will close the public hearing, and we'll move on to the next resolution, consideration of the fiscal year 26 budget. Any comments from today, council, the budget hearing?
The only comment I would make is we really have a dedicated city staff. They're conscientious, they're cost conscious, they're competent, they're passionate about their job. We're really very fortunate. I don't know about, there's no comment on other levels of government, but at this level of government, in our government, we have the best people doing an excellent job, doing excellent work. And we're very fortunate that they're able to do it with limited dollars. They're stretched, but they still come through with outstanding work. So I'm very, very grateful to that. I think the city should be grateful as well.
Great, thank you. So is there a motion to approve this budget?
I'll make the motion to approve the fiscal year 26 budget.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by
Second.
Candy.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Thank you. Budget was approved unanimously, and I would just also like to thank all the volunteers over this last year and coming years who, it's because of our great citizenry that we get so many things done, besides what happens just at the city level with our city employees. So really makes a great community. Okay, next we have Ordinance 1257. Consideration of amendment to vendor regulations. This is the third and final reading. I'll open a public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to this particular ordinance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And again, this is the third and final reading for 1257, which is vendor regulations.
So I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 1257.
Okay, moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Esti. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Next resolution is the vendor fee structure. So this has been updated. So I take a motion to approve that vendor fee structure.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was approved unanimously. Ordinance 1258, this is the second reading, consideration to establish park and recreation rates. I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to the new rates at Park and Recreation? Seeing none, I'll close. Oh, that was a thumbs up. Okay. Okay. I'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to that second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Esti, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Thank you. That was approved unanimously to move those new rates into, to go to the third reading, sorry. Ordinance 1259, consideration of amendment to parameters of trespassing. I'll open a public hearing on this. Anybody would like to speak to this ordinance on trespassing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. This is the second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Moved by Toohill,
Second.
second by Esti. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Toohill,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Great, thank you. That was approved unanimously. Quickly, and I've got several things under the mayor's report, but first off, in our work session, we talked about referring the Resilient Action Committee action plan to the Personnel Committee, and I believe the council would like to move that for further study at the Personnel Committee.
Yes, Mayor. I believe we want to refer further consideration of the sustainability coordinator
Yes.
position
That's true.
to the Personnel Committee, and I would make that motion.
Yeah, I didn't say that quite right. It was review, yes. This kind of gets to that heart of that. So it is to refer the sustainability coordinator position to personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign? Okay, great. And you have that meeting already scheduled, did you say? Yeah, when are you doing that?
Wednesday at 12:30.
Wednesday, 12:30. Okay, great. Next is Fair Housing a Month Proclamation. This was brought to me by Tammy Dunbar, who I believe is president of the Southeast Iowa Realtors. And so I'm going to read that. Whereas April 2025 marks the 57th anniversary of the passage of the Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, which enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas housing is a human right and affording a home is part of the American dream. And whereas equal opportunity for all to buy and rent a home without regard to race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin is a fundamental goal of our nation, state, and municipalities. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas as we recognize Fair Housing Month, it is timely that we reflect on the importance in communities, states, and the nation to affirm civil rights and oppose discrimination. And whereas only through continued cooperation, commitment, and support of all Iowans can the barriers to fair housing be removed. And whereas the City of Fairfield, Iowa is committed to the mission and intent of the Fair Housing Act to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas the local government of Fairfield, Iowa supports the education of home buyers and sellers, realtors, landlords, property managers, and tenants regarding their rights and responsibilities under the Fair Housing Act. And whereas Fairfield, Iowa recognizes the need to affirmatively promote fair housing in its policies and practices, and will continue to work to identify and remove impediments to fair housing choices. Now therefore, I, Mayor Connie Bauer, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Fair Housing Month in Fairfield, Iowa. There you go, you can have that. I have two board appointments for the Carnegie Museum Board, Laura Franklin and Ariel Seawall. They are replacing Dave and Sherry Neff, who have just reached 6 years on the Carnegie Museum Board and are now stepping off. So I would take a motion to approve. Laura Franklin and Ariel Seawall.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Toohill, second by Esty. Kness. Sorry. That's what I meant to say.
Not that I wouldn't support your motion.
I'm not sure, they're not even remotely close. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Just a few announcements. I want to congratulate Radim Schreiber of Fairfield. He has, if you saw this recently, he won the grand prize for National Wildlife Federation's 2024 Garden for Wildlife Photo Contest. He won over 5,000 other submissions, and he's the gentleman that does the firefly photos. It was amazing. And so congratulations, Radim. We're very proud of you. Want to thank Sinclair for donating 2 new backpack-style leaf blowers to the fire station firefighters. That helps in fighting vegetation fires. Again, thank you so much. That was in the paper this last week. It was mentioned this morning that we have a private donor that's donating some money to build a new shelter at O.B. Nelson Park near the skate park. And he is also donating money to have the skate park sandblasted to get rid of all the graffiti. And we are also putting up a light that will shine down on the skate park so kids can skate a little bit later after dark. So we thank you tremendously to that donor. And then we will be taking down the old shelter that's there that's kind of junky. The new shelter will be very similar. It's going to be fashioned after the one that's by the Castle Park. So it'll be a really nice shelter. Doug and I had a meeting with some citizens this last week, about that are interested in forming a group to look at energy costs within the community And so if anybody's interested in that, if you'll please let me know, send me an email, give me a call, and I'll connect you with those people that want to do a little bit more study on that. Last thing is I want to announce that the opioid group is funding Tall Cop on April 29th. That is in the morning, 8 to noon. That's for professionals. There are CEs available for medical professionals. And so you can get those CEs through, if you check with Chris Estel at Public Health. She'll make sure, there's no cost to you to get those CEs. Again, that is going to be at Fairfield Arts and Convention Center from 8 to noon. And then there's going to be a community event for anyone from 6 to 7:30 at the FHS auditorium. I'm told that you will never look at candy in your gas station the same ever again after you listen to this gentleman. So it's quite fascinating.
Never look at what?
Candy. And all the things that are in a gas station.
Oh, CEs mean continuing education. correct?
Continuing education, correct. So again, that's Tall Cop, and if you Google Tall Cop, you can read about him. Again, the date is April 29th, and that is being funded by the opioid group. And,
What percentage of their funds have they expended to date?
oh, not very much. Do you know?
10%, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, if that, probably.
Yeah, I think we have over 200 and some thousand. We've spent about
We just saw
20,
2 things.
25.
The Tall Cop.
Tall Cop.
And this JCHC are the only two expenses I can recall.
And then we did some t-shirts.
T-shirts.
Oh, t-shirts.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
yep. Okay, city attorney report.
Yes, Rebecca, can I ask you a question first? Did you get the things about the penalty discussion?
I have whatever I attached.
Is there something in the tablets?
Yes, what's on the screen right now is what is in the tablets.
This is what we've got.
All right, okay, so that's this. I'm gonna hand one thing around, which is just an example of what it would look like if we do penalty amendments. And while I'm doing that, everybody get one, we'll talk about it a little bit as far as choices we could make. First of all, I want to mention some good news and something that Weston and I have been on the phone about, and he's been in person. The rail yard behind Taco John's, I call it the Anderson Steel Yard. It has leftover rail cards and an awful lot of different kinds of metal scrap and stuff sitting around the grounds over there. It's owned by Dave Thibodeau and Teresa Habermeyer Hofer, and essentially they have agreed that with the exception of some rolling stock over there that has value and is in the process of trade, they will have at least half of the yard cleared by May 20th and the remainder by July 31st as far as things that can be hauled out. And I think they do mean business on this. They've already done about 8 dumpster loads of removal of things over there, and they've also got things on pallets to scrap. And this will be noticeable eventually as far as an improvement to that area that right now is every summer overgrown with weeds, hiding metal in the area behind the fence. So that is pretty much voluntary on their part with us watching them. The second thing I want to mention to you is something that has to do with a problem we may or may not have, but I was speaking with a friend of mine that's connected with the city attorney's office up in my hometown back at Waterloo about something that's going on, and it's been covered about the last 2 months in the Des Moines Register. There are 2 sheriffs and a chief of police up in north central and northeast Iowa that are troubled by something the legislature's been trying to do, which is make it mandatory that if an agency we know as ICE from the federal government would come in and require local assistance from law enforcement, that they be mandated to do that. And the sheriffs basically have taken the position in different confrontations with a local legislator up there to the effect that they shouldn't be compelled to involve in this. And this is a similar position by the chief of police up there too, that it should depend on the professional discretion of the officers as to whether the raid that is the hypotheses in these situations is being conducted legally or not. And they cite things going all the way back a generation ago when Immigration Naturalization Services came in with school buses and emptied out a food processing plant of people, some of who had valid work permits, some of who didn't. But it was done without administrative due process at the time. Right now, that seems to be the modus operandi for the federal government. And what happened is in the legislature, they passed, it hasn't been signed by the governor and it isn't law yet in Iowa, but they've got a debate going on about whether you can make our law enforcement do this under penalty of state not funding different projects in your community if you haven't had law enforcement cooperating with ICE in this situation. Now, I don't know how that's going to shake out, but it's also being looked at by communities that have community colleges and universities. We happen to have one of those with 89 different nationalities here in town, so I think we have 5 immigration lawyers in town that I'm aware of, and maybe that's enough to sort this out. But in the meantime, if you have a chance to talk to a legislator, the legislation that defunds you for exercising your professional discretion, I think is poor legislation. I think it's sort of been stopped right now with the debate going on in the legislature, but it's still out on the table. It might get adopted, it may not. But the other part of this is the governor has said she would sign that if it makes it to her. So I think from our perspective, as far as what our police department or sheriff's department might be asked to do in this county with a university in our presence, 25 miles from us is a food processing plant that I guarantee you has a large number of work permits. It is something to keep your eyes open about. So enough said about that. But the thing that's in front of you as far as penalties right now, we ran into something in magistrate court about our building maintenance code update that we adopted by reference to certain parts of the international code. And when we enforced it against one of our local citizens, the magistrate told us that, well, your general penalty provisions don't apply. You've got something in that ordinance that makes the maximum that you can have a person penalized basically $100 or 30 days in jail. Well, we don't do jail for people that we're dealing with nuisance enforcement or building safety enforcement. So that $100 penalty right away set us on our heel. We took a look at some other parts of our code, and basically our code has some penalty provisions that go back as far as 1964, some of them in the 70s and 80s. They're pretty much the $100 30 day. And then we got a number of ordinances where the phrase "unless otherwise provided," you apply the general penalty, but then you go through those particular ordinances, and the "unless otherwise provided" are things like we've got parts of our animal control ordinance where at the time that was being passed, some people didn't feel that some of the things that were violations under that ordinance warranted more than $25 penalties. We've also got some traffic ordinance that opinion of the council 20 years ago was they didn't merit a penalty more than $25. Right now, the state general penalty section allows a penalty between $105 and $855. So time has kind of passed us by as far as what we could be assessing for penalties versus what some of our ordinance does. The other part of the handout that I gave you has to do with civil infraction, which is the other form of enforcement we use, and that's also a little bit bigger than it used to be. But what my thought is, and my question to the council is, should we be looking at the entire group of ordinances we have and thinking that generally we want to default to the state code provisions that allow us to have a range of penalties between 100 and 800. Not saying we should be penalizing people $800. That's for multiple violations, repeat violators, things like that as you go up the ladder. But if we do that, it would essentially amount to going into our ordinances as we now have them, basically deleting a lot of the things that are where we hit one of those unless otherwise stated provisions, and we just decide that we're going to default to the state authorized penalty unless there's something really unique about the violation that we want to keep low. I think we've had enough experience with some of, for instance, our animal control ordinance that even things like the number of dogs can turn into a 2-year disagreement, I guess is the way I would put it, and you spend a lot more time and effort and probably things that require more than penalties that are minimal to do that. So the civil penalties under the civil infraction ordinance can be as high as the misdemeanor penalties in the first part of what I handed out. If we were to treat those as the general method of recommendation for penalties and then leave some discretion with the magistrate or our judges that look at these things, and still have a few ordinances where the council feels there is some reason why it shouldn't fall to our default general penalty sections. The civil infraction part, also we use that to get after situations where the court also has the power to use injunctive relief. They can do mandates, mandamus to make somebody do something. The abatement that is ordered can be first on the owner, second on the city, third on the assessment and the collection by both judgment and by tax assessment. So those things fall into the civil infraction side. But what I'm asking, I guess, in my question to the council is, does it make sense to pretty much go to a default on these two types of ordinances and basically sort out other things that may be 20, 30, 40 years old since there's been a penalty update? I don't have a particular opinion on it, except if we're too disappointed with the outcome that we get from a judge because he says no matter what I can't impose a penalty greater than this, and we're up to our nose in something that required a lot more effort to try to abate or try to resolve or prosecute, at that point we may be coming back to you ordinance by ordinance instead of an ordinance that catches this as a general default to go to. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I lay it on the table because it's something that I know both Wesson and I have looked at it, and we've talked to the magistrate about, also the associate district court judge who might involve on this, and we think it's worth considering.
I was going to say, you think that it would be easier if we just deferred to the state penalties?
Yeah, if we do nothing, we still have a whole variety of ordinances with penalties of 25, 50, some of them 100, some of them are capped at 100, and then we have others that can go between 50 and 500. and we have some that go between 50 and 750. And then we have this municipal infraction provision, which is different than anything on a misdemeanor. So,
Any penalty less than $100, I don't think anybody cares.
Exactly.
It's not much of a penalty.
Yeah.
yeah, and this is still in the discretion of the judge always. We recommend, but it helps if we're able to recommend and not be told by the court, well, it looks to me like your ordinance doesn't let you do anything greater than that anyway. So sometimes the ordinance can be persuasive with your defendant as far as whether they're cooperative or don't see any big deal about it. They'll pay the fine and have the same problem again next season. So
And so you're talking about just like one-offs, because there are times when we could assess them multiple, right? Like every single day, basically, that they're out of
you
compliance
could.
with
The
our ordinance.
violations are day by day.
Right.
Usually the magistrate's reluctant to do more days. If he finds somebody for something, he's going to say, well, my conviction was based on the day you charged. So
But we
if you-
could charge multiple days,
You can charge
right?
again and
Yeah,
again
yeah.
and again. That's
Okay.
true too. Yeah. So
But that's not really the situation you're talking about. It's more like.
no, I'm more concerned that some of these that have to do with abatement and so forth. We're looking at situations where we are now having the city commit to thousands of dollars to remedy things. I think sometimes if a person felt that they were looking at penalties of 500 or 800 or something like that, instead of a top of 100, they might do something sooner than us being there with demolition threats. So,
Counsel, you want him to move forward with that? You want to take it to Ways and Means and have a little more in-depth discussion?
I'm good with wherever you want to committee it, if that's what you're thinking is.
Got a feeling?
Property or Ways and Means?
Ways and Means.
Can I
I
make a
think
motion to move to Ways and Means?
Okay.
I don't want to get off topic, but
I'm on both committees.
I know the reason we're doing this half-hour session before the meeting every night is to try to eliminate committee meetings. And it
So we
doesn't
could take
really
it there?
seem- Doesn't really seem we're doing that much, so
Are we trying to eliminate or just reduce them?
reduce them, but
We have.
have we?
Yeah.
Okay. I must be on the other committees.
Maybe so. Yeah.
So,
Well, we can bring it back to work session.
I mean, I'm open either way, but we can bring it back to work session because it's something that we're all going to discuss anyway. So even when we bring it to Ways and Means, it's going to be a recommendation we make that's going to be discussed. So I don't have a problem with bringing it back to work session.
Okay.
But
You okay with that, Doug? You want to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, put it on the next work set, or whenever it gets ready, we'll look at it on the work session. But also put it on the agenda, so if we take action at work session, we have an intuition that we want to do something, and we can take action that same night.
Okay.
So are we asking John to move forward with it and then bring it to us for a work sessions and then put it on the agenda?
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
come whenever you tell me you need me, okay?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So first and second to bring this back to a work session in some close to final form. And any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign? Okay, great. John, if you can have that, I mean, if can do it by next
Yes.
council meeting, great.
Yeah, I can do that.
And we'll put it on,
All right.
okay?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, committee and board reports. Property committee?
Yes, property committee met on April 7th, and we had a number of properties to deal with. We've already dealt with one, the Little Fawn abatement question was already dealt with by council. Then we had several properties that were recommended by the CCO for action. One of them is 604 North C Street.
Code compliance officer. Right?
CCO, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
His return address just says CCO on his email. This house at 604 North C, the owner wishes to donate it, or wish to donate it to the city. But it has a $13,000 credit card lien on it. And it's not clear that the best way to proceed would be to take it. Probably, we would write an infraction against the owner and then let it go to district court. Make the recommendation to have a minimum fee applied, and then see if the lien can't be abated in the process of doing that. So once it goes to court, then I guess the creditors will be notified, and they can appeal and take action as they deem fit. Hopefully they will waive it, right?
Probably one other thing.
Yeah.
Actually, the creditor would be named as an additional defendant.
Oh, okay.
So that'll get their attention. And that, the hope would be maybe they'll relinquish their interest rather than sending somebody out from New
It's just a way to
Jersey
get
or
around the
somewhere
lien.
that be part of our case.
And then if they can get rid of the lien, then we can take it as a gift and demolish it like we would other homes that have been in that situation.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need any action on that. We're just, the motion, we did make a motion to recommend to the council that we go ahead and tell Weston to issue a infraction against the property. So that's my motion, I guess.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is for him to go ahead and issue an infraction.
Right.
Any discussion?
Yes. I've brought this up multiple times. I still believe that there has to be a company, a demolisher, Bob Brown, someone, anyone in town that does demolishing, that could buy this property, that we could state that they have to do something specific, that then they can turn around and sell it for a profit, because it's only costing us money to do this. And I think it's bad business for the city. We don't want to take people's houses, but if we could get into a situation with 5 companies, I don't care who they are, that we have, a very specific contract in place where they take the properties and they do the demo themselves. They have to do the asbestos, and maybe no one will be interested, but we still haven't gone down this path. And I think that it is prudent for us as city council members to have this discussion with these companies rather than continuing to do it ourselves, because that is not our business.
And along with that, the certification that we talked about earlier.
Correct.
That's what I was thinking of,
Yes, they already have the
encouraging
experience.
private
Yes.
companies
Yeah.
to start taking this kind of work on.
Yes.
And we do have, Doug has been working on a flow chart, just hasn't come to you yet,
Right.
with where the council would determine,
What the right course of action is
which
to take.
direction is the
Yeah.
appropriate action.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I still want to go down that path. I'm tired of making these decisions to spend taxpayer dollars on demolishing properties that no one will take care of, and they're like, now it's your problem. Like, that's
Right.
not what we do.
So will anyone buy it if it has a $13,000 lien on it and the property's not even, I don't know if it's worth that much?
I mean, we can still assist them. We can take the property, if they want to gift it to us, and then we can gift it to another company and say, these are the things that you have to do. And if you default on them, we're going to sell it to you on contract. If you default on them, we get it back. Like, you have to accommodate and meet these requirements to clean up the property. And if you don't, it's still an asset of the city. You cleaned it up for free. You don't get to put a lien on it.
There's an existing lien on this property, credit card.
Yeah, I understand that. Again, they can donate to the city. We can try to get the lien resolved. Like, there's ways around, we just had that conversation. There's ways around it. I think it's short-sighted to continue to demolish homes at our cost. Like, we have to figure something else out.
I think we kind of looked at that briefly at Ways and Means, and I think we determined that it's cheap, that it's more lucrative for the company to demolish the property and charge for that than it is what the property is worth.
So for them to take the property.
Right, because they could charge us overhead. If we put it out to bid and say, buy it,
Right.
or you can have it for
you can
free.
have it, but they're going to get $20,000. Say roughly, I'm just throwing numbers out, but they're going to get $20,000 in billing to demolish it. If we give the property to them, they're going to do all the work, demolish it, and they're going to sell it for $10,000. So
Probably a wash, quite honestly.
yeah, so they're going to make $20,000 one way, or do all the work and make $10,000 the other way. I don't know if there'll be interest. I just. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying not to do it. I absolutely say we should investigate it. But
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
all I'm
know if
asking.
there's. Yep.
I'm not saying
Nope.
that
I
have
totally
to do
agree.
this. Yeah.
It's because we tried that with D Street, right? I mean, I know that
No.
Weston was trying to get people to come in and take the house, just take it off of our hands, and nobody wants it because of the cost to demo it. Isn't that correct, Weston?
We don't own the property, though.
No, we don't
can't
own
do
the
that.
property, but like even trying to get somebody to buy it off of them to get, I mean, you know, like, and we get into this situation where it's just dangerous at this point and it's just hanging out there.
So D Street, we could not do that on because we don't own it. We didn't go through the 657A process.
But I know that there have been contractors in there who are like, I'm not going to touch this.
Yes, the homeowner did try to sell it.
Right.
He was at an inflated price that nobody wanted to pay. He basically needed to give that to a couple contractors, and he would not do that. He's just
Okay.
gotten to the point he wouldn't do it. As far as trying to get people to take these houses, I think when we have some houses that are worth redoing, I think that's definitely something that we should do. Other communities are doing it and having success at it and actually putting money back in their coffers for it. There's going to be certain houses that are just
Certainly.
Are just too
I think
far
just
gone.
having the blanket, like, we're going to tear every house down that this happens on is
I
short-sighted.
hope that that's not the way that everybody feels. I'm hoping that as we move forward and we get into the 657A process, especially if we can get the houses a little bit sooner than later, we'll have something that has good bones that can be sold. But like this house, there's just nothing worth saving on it. It's not worth $13,000, you know. So
Sure.
I think it's a demo project, probably for us. The good news is that it's not got a basement or anything like that, and it's a structure that can be easily taken down. So hopefully we'll get our money back out of the lot when we're done.
If we don't have to pay the $13,000 credit card debt.
Well, I don't think we should take it if we.
Well, we're not going to
if
do
we
it.
ha-
And it will
yeah.
expire. The credit card debt is going
Oh,
to
certainly, yes,
expire. The lien's going to expire next year. So, I mean, we could also just wait it out. I mean, I don't know.
Or we demo it, put that on the taxes, and hopefully by then we have the ordinances in place where we can say, hey, that's a special assessment tax that we want to take it.
That should already be a special assessment tax.
Well, it's-
Demo it and put
But
it
we
on
have,
tax.
there's
Way to do it
ordinances
with
the county has to
infractions.
put in place so we can have those special auctions or do those things at tax time that aren't in place right now.
Okay.
Also, then it kind of like artificially inflates the cost of the house if somebody wants to buy it at tax sale, which disincentivizes people
Right.
purchasing it, and then they have to get those taxes abated, and you know, it's like this whole cycle, and it's just like, I'm with you, Terry, it's not sustainable at all. And it's like the whole legal process just costs so much time. I mean, you guys are going to court all the time, John's going to court all the time, then we're taking it to district court. I mean, it's just like, it's not sustainable, but
And then
I don't know.
some of these properties, like when they got bought at tax sale,
Yeah.
and they're not worth the tax company salvaging them, they'll just let them go to the next tax sale. Well, they'll let us mow it all year long and everything else, so we're adding more cost in there on these
Right.
houses that we're spending money on. So getting them taken care of right away and faster is gonna actually save us money
Yep.
in the end, especially if we can get into it and it's got deep enough bones. Kevin Franklin's house, the floors were falling in, and I didn't feel like it was safe for people to go take a tour of the house, so it was hard to sell it. D Street, he's literally taken the supports out of the middle of it, so the house is bowing
Yeah,
down
you
in
can
the
see
center.
that. Yeah.
So we have houses that we're not gonna be able to
Yep.
give to somebody, or.
And I'm fully aware of that. I know there's going to be outliers, but I guess the last time we had this conversation, I didn't feel like I had any support behind it, and I don't feel like the property committee necessarily talked about it. But that's just something that I think that really needs to be discussed.
And I've had your thought process also, is that if we could give it to somebody that is a contractor that does that all the time, where, you know, all they have is their time and maybe dump fees
Equipment,
and or something like that. If it was the right property, they might want to take that on.
Yep.
This property, I don't see that being. It's just not a great property. I think that it's a nice habitat place for a Fairfield economic development. It is an east-facing lot, so they can put a house on there for that. But it's just not a great neighborhood or great lot.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Okay. So there is a motion, a second, for the code enforcement officer to issue infraction. So, any more discussion on that? Please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was passed. And we will try to get you this workflow. Doug and I'll see if we can't finish that up this week and get it to you at work session next round.
All right, the next property is 801 South Fifth Street, and the owner is, this is also complicated, owner's in a nursing home and probably needs a guardian, but she does not have one. And as John described it, she's probably a protected person, which means
We need a guardian
she has to
conservator
have a
for her,
guardian
and
to
right
speak
now,
for her.
Health and Human Services is gonna tell us
Right.
they don't have the manpower or the resources.
What was
So-
the address again? I'm sorry.
801 South Fifth Street.
801 South Fifth. Okay.
So the committee's recommending that we go ahead and proceed with 657A on that building. That's my motion, I guess.
Second.
Okay, 801 South Fifth Street.
Yeah.
To go down 657A. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
I guess, sorry, I do have a comment on this. Is there any concern of it being taken to pay for her stay at,
I don't know anything
Oh.
about whether she's on SSI or that kind of stuff with
Right.
Medicaid, Medicare, 10 or 19.
okay. I would highly suggest we look into that first, because I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't think we could do anything.
It gets even more complicated because we might have to sue the Attorney General and tell them how different divisions of the state government are involved in this too, and fix it, which they're gonna basically turn around to us and say, well, we don't want it, if that's what it means.
Right.
If we have to do everything to get it to the point where we're the ones giving it up in a 657A because we've got a Title 19 lien. I've had that discussion with an Assistant Attorney General before, and they're not looking for more work as far as trying to collect for an agency in Des Moines that has 300 people and used to do it themselves.
Okay. It does now have a tax sale on it, so.
It does not.
It does.
It does have a tax bill on it. Okay.
In 24.
Okay,
All right.
next one, Doug.
Next one is 802.5 North 8th Street. Is that the correct address?
So 802 and a half,
Yeah.
north, sorry,
North of 8th Street.
north 8.
So you gave him a workout plan, right?
Correct.
So what Weston asked us to do is to recommend to council that we give him a couple months to exercise the pre-approved plan and correct any structural deficiencies that that are found in the engineer's report. So I think he recommended 6 months for that to take place. So that's the recommendation to council, is that allow the owners to have 6 months to bring the property back up to Weston's recommendations, consistent with the engineer's report. That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second to that? So again, not this time. So I know you are, but it's not a public hearing right now. So so we do have a motion to give 6 months for them to work out.
I will second.
Is there a
that.
second?
I will second.
Okay, moved by Ham. Discussion from council? Council, do you want to hear from the owners? If not,
Up to 3 minutes, I suppose.
okay. Is that okay? You got 3 minutes.
Can we extend it to 1 year? Because I work for the MIU, the nonprofit university, and my husband, you see, is getting old, and then we cannot. We don't have the credit to make a loan, and we don't want to make a loan to build a
I
house.
think
But-
this is,
Yeah.
Weston, council, you can say what you're gonna say, but in my view, that we've been working for a long time on this house. I think 6 months is it. How do you feel, council?
Well, why
I
don't you
think that's
do what you-
reasonable.
And we've been
Yeah.
doing everything that we've been asked, and the value of it has gone up. According to the assessor, it's gone up to
Nonsense.
$30,000.
Oh, okay, that doesn't matter. Why don't you take the 6
It's
months, just be quiet. Take the 6 months, do what you can, and Weston will evaluate how much work you put into it, and if he.
Do you still have an
see how much
engineer
progress you can
attorney?
make, and then you can always come back to us and ask us for another 6 months.
Yeah. You need to get done is what you can get done in 6 months, and I
So
would
before we give you a
sincerely
year,
try to finish.
what I'm saying is before we give you a year, we'll give you 6 months and see how much work you get done on it.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second to allow 6 months working with our code enforcement officer. Any more discussion, council? Please call the roll.
Florner,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Kness,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Thank you. 6 months. Okay.
All right. Next property is actually one we've already addressed in a prior meeting, 604 North B Street. That house has already been decided by council to be condemned, so we didn't take any further action on that. I think Weston was considering whether we should do a 657A on it.
We already are. Isn't that,
No, I thought we decided on
isn't that
condemnation.
Michael Goodman?
No,
I'm sorry.
Michael Ford.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it's
all
604
right.
North B.
It's the guy living in the
It's
garage.
That's Michael Goodman.
This
Yeah.
is 604
Mary
North
Welch.
Beach, right? The Noodle
All
House
right.
one?
604
Yeah,
North
the
B
yellow
is
house
Goodman.
up on, across from the cemetery.
Oh, I thought we were talking about, okay. Noodle
Okay,
House.
so
No, that's next.
where are we at with this?
All right, I've got them mixed up by 2 blocks.
It's good.
That's all right.
You said, what was the address?
604 North B.
Okay, that is Michael Goodman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Goodman's
Yeah.
across from, we've.
Yeah,
It's near.
yeah, it's catty corner from the cemetery and one house up.
Right,
South.
okay.
So, okay. Kitty corner, catty corner, cat
All right.
office. Okay, it's 9 o'clock.
Next one, yes. The 51-54 North Court, Mary Melch's building. We have decided to have a value analysis of her, market value analysis of her property performed and decide where we're gonna go after we get that valuation established.
I've seen people, they're working on it a lot lately.
I see lights on at night, I suppose they're working on it,
They
but,
have ladders out on the overhang.
okay.
Yeah.
They took down all the signs and that awning,
Yeah.
Keep track.
It's a little dangerous.
Yeah.
but it was sort of an improvement.
Okay, there's one other property that came up.
Wait, Doug,
I'm sorry.
for that property, the 658 is still proceeding on that particular property, isn't it?
Which one? Oh,
The,
Mary Welch's?
657A?
Yeah.
That's in
657.
57A,
Sorry,
right.
Yeah, we're still moving forward. Okay.
I think the question wasn't it to switch to condemnation
Possible condemnation.
rather than proceed with the
to-
657A?
To make the procedure go fast.
It's a little quicker.
And that's based, but we're gonna make that decision after.
Well, if
the-
we end up, get the market value
Right.
analysis, we'll know what it's gonna cost us,
Yep.
because we'll have to buy it if we do that.
Understood.
Do you need a motion for that?
No, well, yeah, I guess we do. Let's just do it anyway.
Okay.
We had a motion in committee to recommend to council to do that. So the motion is to ask council to have a market value analysis performed on that building.
Is this 57, 59?
51 through 54.
It is.
5154 is what I got
Okay.
written down.
Sorry.
North Court.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second to that motion to get a market value analysis?
Second.
Second by Two Hill. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. That's passed.
And there's another property, 609 North 4th Street, which we did not take any action on, and I can't remember what the discussion was.
Whether they continue with condemnation or
That's being, that's already in condemnation?
that one. Be put.
Okay.
Or to move it to a 657A. We decided to go ahead and issue a citation. So we asked them to do on it instead. So we issued the citation to get a judgment.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Administrator and department reports.
I guess it's just me. I wanted to on my report, I have 508 East Adams. And this particular property owner, they purchased I would assume a duplex. And they had come in over and over and over again. They had converted this multifamily house into a singular house. And this is where we come into the identity theft and what have you, that renters can't make choices and changes to a piece of property. So the clerks up front cannot make said changes to property accounts unless they cross-check them with the assessors or Beacon. And if they don't align, then they won't make changes. And this particular property owner has come in over and over and over again and saying, I would like to change my trash account that has one water account. It gets kind of complicated when we don't really know what's going on. And I can tell you that having a conversation with me, the property owners were angry and they wanted these things where the property owners, and finally everything changed with the assessor site, and it showed when they had purchased it. And these particular property owners would like a refund for the double trash accounts that they've had for the last 5 months because it was just them. And even though they own the property, they were still getting charged twice. The reason why there was only one water account is often there's one meter, and then they split the water payment, but then they'll have two trash accounts. And we have a lot of these unique situations. I don't disagree with these property owners that they were having to pay for two trash services that they were never using. That I understand that their frustration with the city, even though we have this alignment with the county, and it again protects all of us. And they won't make changes because those are the rules set by council, and it's not really a discretion. So I explained to them that I would appeal to council, and I cannot offer refunds. I can't offer any of those things. But the total balance was $78.90 that they would like to have credited to their account. And that's at your discretion. I don't disagree with this request because things take time in government. And it's
Isn't their first step to get the place rezoned from R2 to R1?
No.
Do they
You can
remodel
have a
it?
single-family home in an R2 district.
Sorry?
You can have a single-family home in an R2 district.
I know, but
Oh.
they have two accounts because they have two addresses.
No. It's a single family house.
But
They had one
remodeled it to
water-
a single family, but it was prior to that, was it an R2?
East Adams, it probably is an R2.
Right.
I'm just not seeing that it has been transferred out of Clark's name from 2013 on the assessor's site. It still shows in their name on the assessor's website. I looked on both the GIS and Beacon, and it's still, there's probably an issue with the deed, is my guess, if they bought it that long ago, that they need to contact their attorney.
Recorder?
No, their attorney. It's generally their attorney that prepared the deed wrong. That's my experience with why properties don't change names. If it's been an extensive amount of time.
Yeah, they cross-checked and they said that
Did they?
it was confirmed.
I just
Or maybe
looked.
they called, I don't know, but they took care of it on this end. But they were doing all the checking, and these
So-
property owners are extremely frustrated.
Okay, so the question is, council, do you want to refund them the $78.90 for the 5 months of duplicated trash service?
So what, did they already called Waste Management and canceled one of the accounts?
They had that cleared off of our account, it all goes through us.
And you called Waste Management.
No, they do, yeah.
It's been rectified,
Yeah.
Right.
right, so.
Okay.
I don't know. They should have done it 5 months ago.
Well, they tried. They came in every month to see if they could get it changed. It was over and over. And I like I said, they were.
So the front staff doesn't have the authority to change it at that point, until they can see that it's real.
I mean, if you have a date of when the deed was filed and it supports that date, I say absolutely refund it.
Okay, that's a motion. Yeah? Is that a motion?
Sure.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's a second to that motion to refund it.
Do you not have the authority? I mean, does this not fall under the same,
It's contingent motions.
say, a water bill? I mean, a water, because it's not a city,
The only,
Yeah.
he only has the sewer reduction.
right? Because it's not a city entity, the waste management, so.
And again, that keeps those controls in place with this council, keeps me in check.
Yep.
And I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Nope, that's fine.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to refund the $78.90.
Is that right?
No, if they can establish.
It's contingent.
Yeah, if you
If
have
they
a
can
date
establish.
when the
Right,
deed
right.
was filed.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't, there's clearly an issue.
Just refund back to that date, whatever
Yeah,
the deed was
that
filed.
needs to be fixed, and then it still needs to be refunded back to that date. Hopefully, this helps them if there is an issue with the deed.
Is that clear?
Crystal.
Okay.
It's after 9. Everybody's getting fuzzy-headed upstairs. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and call the roll?
Kness.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Okay. Was that it, Doug?
That's really all we
Yeah.
have.
Okay, so we are now going to go into closed session per Iowa Code 21.51C to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation.
Tom Terry.
So I would take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Moved by Esti. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gandy?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Please call the roll.
Esti.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Kness.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
You need to wait for Jason.